work titled Studying Online Polarization During COP Meetings with Multi-Layer Network and Topic Modeling. But just to give a bit of context, last year I was here in the InfoLab to do my internship for working on my thesis, and the lab was mainly focused on social networks and natural language processing. And in this context I wrote my thesis, which was the title we just saw, and that gave me the opportunity to create this pipeline, because the research question related to the COP meetings were easily generalizable, with the opportunity to create this pipeline that included all the data processing, the topic modeling, and the creation of a network. And then we'll see an example, but let's start with this pipeline that in my case was from tweets to network. And specifically we can see here how it's divided in 3 different modules. That with raw data we have first data processing to have in a homogeneous way, then there is the topic modeling phase, and then the network creator. And now we'll see in details the data. In fact, we can theoretically start with any kind of raw data that is connected with each other. In fact, in this case, our tweets, where we have the text, the author, a possible reference to another, so retweet, and a mention. So the output of the data processor is basically a table that has this field, and this is useful for the next steps. So in fact the second step is the topic modeling, where we just need the table where there is a text column, and the output will be just the same column, the same table, but with the topic column and the model, so we can do whatever. And in particular I want to stop a bit explaining which framework I decided to use for this topic modeling phase, which is BERTopic, because after an evaluation, which was part of my thesis too, it turns out that was the best performing in this scenario. And briefly, it works by creating the embeddings and then clustering them in the space after using HTB scan, which is relevant because it allows for outliers, so there is not too much noise inside the topics. And we can also see the topic representation where can be visualized in this way. And but then that's not enough, because we need also the humans in the loop to validate these kind of topics, to see if it worked. So now this is still in progress, and the idea is to give the possibility to domain experts to select if the tweets are correct, the topic is correct for the specific tweet. So we just can label, and when you press correct or wrong, you will be prompted with another tweet. But then moving to the network part, we can have this table, which is the output of the previous step, with the topic, the text, the timestamp, and the author. And the goal of the network creator is translating this table into a temporal text network, which is a model developed by InfoLab from Davide Vega and Matteo Magnani. And the good part of this kind of network is that we can translate this table into a network structured way without losing information. So we can change one with another, but we have all the pros of the networks. And then what we can do with this network is a projection. In fact, we can just have a basic retweet network or a multi-layer network if we run the topic modeling. In fact, we can have a retweet network for each of the topics. And yes, so now that we saw this pipeline, we can see an example of how this can be used in a study. And in my case, which was the question of my thesis, was the study of polarization in climate change in Twitter, where Falkenberg and al. Discovered that there was a consistent increase in polarization between COP21 and COP26 using the retweet network. What we decided to do is to run the same analysis, but topic by topic, layer by layer, in this way. So we have more retweet networks to try to find the more polarized topic that were driving the polarization. So now we have to introduce polarization. That there are many different definitions of that. So we just stick to the one used by Falkenberg in its article, and basically it's used the retweet network, where after defining a number of influencers, in this case it's just the most retweeted ones, we create the adjacency matrix of user influencers, where the number is the number of times that users retweet an influencer. Then after some math, singular value decomposition and other twisting, we can get for each user a latent ideology score, which is just a number that spans between -1 to 1, that identify in which side, with influencers is he interacting. Then with all this distribution of latent ideology, we can use the Artigan deep test, which is a statistical test that is able to detect the degree of bimodality inside the distribution. So if there are two different peaks, and the Eiger is this, the Eiger will be the deep test value. Now let's see the methods, how the data has been processed. In fact, starting from tweets from COP21 and COP26, we have to merge it together and to allow the topic modeler to cluster the tweets in the same topics. But after the topic modeling, so after having all the tweets labeled, we just need to split the two data sets, the COP21 and COP26, and create the retweet network that we had. And using the Artigan deep test, we can compute the degree of polarization. So the results of these were, like in the top graph, top plot, we have for each bar a topic, and the blue bar is the polarization level, the yellow the number of users, and we are interested in topics that have like a high degree of polarization, but that are also present in both COPs. In fact, in the second plot, topic distribution, we can see how like the first three topics, 23, 42, and 51, were present only in COP 26. That's because if you look, it was Boris Johnson, vaccine COVID, and Greta Thunberg, which were not a thing in 2015. So now to see an example, topic 12 was good because it was big enough in terms of number of users, in terms of polarization, and in the two distribution. So we can see here, this is the retweet network for both the COPs, where the x-axis is the polarization score that the latent ideology score. And yes, we can see that in this case there was an increase in the polarization according to this definition. And yes, but concluding, that was an example of how this pipeline can be used, that now we will explore more, but want to focus on the fact that starting from the raw data, it is easily accessible to the possibility to generate these kind of networks, and virtually with different data and different research questions, we can have a lot of possible answers. And thank you. This is the code for the library. Thank you.
Questions? in the example, it's on English language tweets, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. The opposite of before.
The opposite of before. Now we got the other side. Yeah. Can I throw?
Yes.
This is going to be a disaster. Wow.
All right, great. So, just question. I mean, it's a very striking picture to have these two different sides.
Yes.
And if I follow the pipeline correctly, what we have is a polarization of retweets.
Yes.
Can you go back to the picture?
Yes, sure. This
And
one.
so I'm just thinking like there's all these, effective polarization is more like hatred, and ideological polarization is more like different sides of, being for fossil fuel funding versus against fossil fuel funding. And I'm wondering, what does this network represent? That people are polarized in terms of the networks that the interactions they select into?
Yes, they basically are interacting all with the same people, like in terms of retweet in this case. While like in the example of COP21, there was like more of a mix between the two sides. While here we can have just influencers from one side, influencers from the other that are, and the users are retweeting all the influencers. So if in this side there is a user retweeting an influencers, it's very probable that it will retweet another influencers in the same bubble. We can.
So it's like a social polarization. But how much do we think that these represent different positions or ideologies? Or I'm just curious. Like, what does it mean that people are retweeting each other?
Yeah, it's not me that I decided to, like, there was an example that also using the same methodology of the other article was to, yes, the idea is to assume that the retweet is a sort of I'm with you. That's not always true, probably, but in this case was this assumption has been chosen to be used.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yes.
What kind of polarization is this?
It's a good question, because the Falkenberg is all about the social polarization. It's all about the relationship, and then putting the. I mean, I guess it would be interesting to see several topics together, right? Because this is one topic, and because the idea of part of your thesis was putting the, like, here's the social polarization, but what happens with the themes or the topics?
Yes.
So
Like
it's
what
worth digging into, right?
Yes, what it did is just use the bigger Twitter network. We just split in different topics to see, because here we can see that there are different topics, and some of them are really polarized and some of them are not. So maybe it was worth investigating which one are like, okay, the polarization increased, but why? And maybe there was just few of them that were a lot polarized.
Yeah, no, I get it. I don't mean to sound critical. I'm just curious what it means.
Yeah, no, but it's a good question.
Yeah.
What it means, yeah.
But not the right person to answer this question.
So
Yeah, hi, thanks for the great talk. I was thinking, if my understanding is correctly, you only have one topic per tweet. And I was wondering, first, is that how it is?
Yeah, yes. Like now it's just in this case, you have just it's a clustering of the tweets that, according to their text, are putting one cluster.
Okay, so this doesn't allow for mixed membership in different clusters. Because I was just wondering if part of polarization can be driven by the fact that you combine different topics differently, and that gives them kind of different meanings if you have a mixture of topics within the same tweet.
Yeah, this is something that it's worth exploring. But also we start with this assumption because since the tweets are usually very short text, like most of them usually have like one topic, but there for sure exist different, and because there is the possibility to compute the probabilities for a text to be in each topic. So maybe if there is more than one topic, we can look at the most probable topics. But in this case, it was not explored, but